No, I haven't. Yeah, because I usually normally have a client this morning, but he's on holiday, so like, even if he wasn't, I was going to take now less with him so I could do this this morning. So,
So we do
I think mine was mainly about 20, 25 minutes. Like, even though it seems like a lot of slides, like, well, for like 5 seconds. Yeah.
Sorry.
Are you all set?
Hello. Oh, it's all about you. We all missed you. Where you been? Ah.
Ooh.
All right. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Woo! Come on.
Awesome.
There you go. Can always
Excellent.
rely on you guys. Bring the energy.
Bloody oath, Dave. When can I do my training for bloke?
Oh, okay, cool.
I bring
let's,
gifts. I bring brides.
Who hasn't been Morning Startup before? Okay. Who doesn't know what Morning Startup's all about? No one. Good. Got the word out.
Well, we've been doing this for over a decade now, since
Yeah.
2012 was when I started. You started in 2011.
Yep.
just the end of 2011. And Morning Startup's been going for, well, we've got 6,500 members now, or communities we call it. Scott and I and Gus get up here every 2 weeks without fail for free, because we love the ecosystem, to kind of bring you a great presenter and to share some of the knowledge that we as founders have gone through. Some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, and definitely a lot of the mistakes that we've made, so that you guys don't make those mistakes. And also to connect you with some awesome presenters and some awesome people in the community.
Yeah, it's just to get as many smart people under the same roof as often as possible. Good things will happen. That's my theory anyway. Hopefully you get something.
And we also see a lot, while doing it, we also see a lot of people, we've seen companies created here. Like in this building, there's just over there, we won't speak about it, but there has been $1 billion company created no more than sort of like 20 metres from where we're standing now. And they're one of the, quite a big employer here in Perth and Sydney. So,
it works.
So every 2 weeks we have this thing called Shameless Plugs. This is your opportunity to stand up, introduce yourself, tell us what you're working on, and if you've got an ask, call it out. We know you've got one, but we're going to keep you to last, and I will keep you time capped. But I'm looking for people who can stand up and say, hey, where's the gentleman, like this gentleman here in the beige shirt, was here first time a couple of weeks ago, stood up, said, look, I've got this. Afterwards, he met a couple of people and they did some business post-it. So that's exactly what Morning Startup's for. So who wants to stand up and introduce themselves and tell us what you're working on? If you don't, I will just put the microphone in front of you until you talk. Anyone brave enough? Go on then. Go on then.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Garima and I'm a student at UWA and I'm pursuing Masters of Strategic Communications. I've recently started my internship with Venture. I'm sure all of you know by now how popular Venture is, and we work on building skills and basically give life to vision of people who come to us, and we also offer consultancy. So that's what I'm working on currently, and I'm here accompanying Chloe, who's my mentor, and I'm looking forward to learning from her a lot.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Anybody else brave enough to go again? Yeah. We got on here.
Hello everyone, my name is Fasahat, Faz for short. I'm the founder of an app called Confidence.ai, and it's in beta testing right now. What the app does is it gives option to practice job interviews, and when the user is practicing on job interviews or practicing the question, what it does is analyzes his facial expressions and speech, also does speech analysis and gives all the analytics, different dimensions of speech and different facial expressions feedback, and the user can see that he or she is improving over time or not. Because I'm going to market soon, we'll be seeking help in that area. Thank you.
Nice. Anybody else brave enough?
Good morning. My name's Elliot. I'm currently working in the consulting space, working with small, medium businesses and consulting with AI implementation. But I'm actually looking to move away from that towards an app that I've had in the back of my mind for quite a long time. And I guess if there's any ask, it would be for someone to maybe point me in the right direction for how to go about, not so much as finding a tech founder, but where to start looking for looking to build the tech stack, or how to start talking to developers, because that's a part. I'm an engineer by trade, but I don't sort of understand the coding and development world. And that was quite scary when I thought I could just maybe learn it in a few months and start to tackle this app. So I think this is probably a quicker way through it. So yeah, any direction would be appreciated.
Cool. There was a talk that we did last year on working with the dev team and how to have better conversations. It was Lee Holdsworthy, I believe. So it's on the Perth Video website.
Any more? Awesome. What do we go to you, sir?
Righto.
Oh, I'm going to time box you to 1 minute.
Righto, do.
Go.
Oh yeah, guys, thank you for coming here. Great effort being here. Now these two guys, there you go, David. Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you very
Scott,
much.
got one for you.
What? Sick.
Yeah. What a year I had last year. I'm from Busselton, so I was on the road at 20 past 3 this morning to be here. And Katie's not here. So there you go. How this? I'm the guy in orange. Amber. This is from Cullen's Winery, right? I'm working part-time. I've left full-time work to full-time work on my business startup. Water security, food security. 2 weeks ago in Melbourne, the Australian-Japanese... Oh, crikey. Business Council. But Matt Ainsworth, stand up, introduce yourself. He put me in the room over in Melbourne, get in touch with him, right? I'm in the process of talking to Japanese investors to invest in my startup for climate change action in WA. West Tech Fest, bloody great, eh? Now I'm going to the state government, what the fuck? Support me to make this happen. It happened here.
Thank you. And it was on a minute. Well done. Brilliant.
Hey, mate, look, I'm the orange guy in Melbourne too.
No, like it. You should do it. You literally should start branding yourself the orange guy.
Mate.
That you could create a whole brand around that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just talking about AI and your little thing. It was so funny. I was launching I don't know how true it was, but I was watching a little thing on the internet where it basically had a consultant from one of the big four just talking to a client, and they're asking about a tender, and of course he's listening to it. The words are coming through, and it's telling him what to say to sound intelligent on the other side. I was like, there is no hope these days for any of the big companies anymore if that's the tech that's behind them. So, just reminding me of my days working for government and working with some of the big four. But interesting.
Level the playing field.
It does.
Thanks for the wine.
Or doesn't level the playing field. Yeah, thank you for the wine.
I'm
Awesome.
bottling it now, eh? Must be part-time job, so I've got plenty of supply.
Ah.
So Founders Sundowner is the other thing we do. If you can't get up in the morning one day, this is the first Wednesday of every month, head along to Nowhere Man Brewing Company. I think they're still called that, otherwise it's Other Side. So they got acquired last year. But yeah, and have some drinks with some other founders.
Big thank you to the Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation, and specifically the New Industries Fund. If you haven't heard of the New Industries Fund, go and check it out. They are responsible, or JITSI, or Jobs in Tourism and Science and Innovation, are responsible for all of these great initiatives, from Innovator of the Year all the way through to the WAVES program, which has brought 3 new VCs here to WA, and I see that they're all doing some good investments, and their purpose is up to 4. So Fund WA did another one in health tech or biotech this week. I think it was Vital Trace, I think was one. Help pregnancy, women, I think it was pregnancies, correct me if I'm wrong. But big thank you to the New Industries Fund, and if you haven't, check out wa.dealroom.co and check out, there's lots of information on companies that have raised money on there.
Yeah, and put your own company on Deal Room as well, and make sure everyone knows what you're doing. And they've helped us out with this awesome company, got a lot of equipment at the back there. And hello to everyone on the live stream. Hopefully there's a bunch. Thanks to perthvideo.com.au. If you need some live streaming services, go check them out.
Now, we couldn't do this, Scott and I do this for the love of you guys here in the room, but we couldn't do this, pay for the food, pay for the streaming the video, or pay for the subscriptions, or meetup fees and the beers and something down there without the help of some awesome companies. And if you haven't, check out Ammo Marketing. Cam and the team and Jack and the team there help you get your brand out there, get your company up and running. They're very, very good. They've got some well-known celebrities that they've worked with to help get them elected and stuff like that. So
who's done marketing in the room? Anyone? Okay, cool, awesome. We're going to have a chat with these people and find out if they are really good. Don't just take our word for it.
But more importantly, check out the Weird Growth podcast. I highly rate this. Great when you're going out and having a walk. You got great people that are on there, like Scott, sharing some of his insights. You'll hear little nuggets. It's not so much, it's great hearing the stories that the people that are sharing on the podcast, but it's also the bits of information. Like there's one I always say it every time, I sound like a broken record, but through one of them, the guy that created the rubber wedding ring, I forget his name. Basically, he was just telling a story about how he got into Donald Miller, which is story branding or storyboarding. And that book, I went and read it, and then I made my execs read it, and it's really great if you're a company looking to kind of translate what your brand is or how you communicate with customers. And again, it's
Still haven't read that book.
you
yet.
need to read it. It's such a great book.
Story
It's
brand.
story branding, yeah.
All right.
Donald Miller.
I'll add that to my list. Cool. Feature group. Hi, Glenn.
I know why the banner wasn't here. Because Glenn took it to a golf event.
You need to bring it back so we can.
It's
tell
there.
people that- Oh, okay.
How many hours did we waste searching for that thing? We thought we'd lost it.
So, who doesn't know what Feature Group's all about? They're an awesome recruitment company here in Perth. If you need talent or you have talent and need to get a gig, go check them out. All right.
Is there any insights into the market at the moment, Glenn?
Glenn's Market Insights.
There's always been a problem for developers, long time. There's more people that are actively looking for or passively looking for employment at the moment too, which is great. So part of the problem, given this where the market cycle is at the moment, if you need software developers, there's still some okay people around. So much better cycle if you like for where you need to be, which is good.
You can get me a developer. All right. Let's talk later.
We have some food at the back here. So big thank you to Jesse and Keepspace. If you are into 3PL or logistics, e-commerce stuff, you've got your own Shopify or something like that, then check out Keepspace. They got a big warehouse here in Perth and one in Melbourne. Thank you, Jesse and the team, for the croissant.
Food at the back. So help yourselves. Also help yourselves to coffee up at Joey Zaz's now or during or later. Just tell them you're at Morning Startup and help them get free coffee.
It's not, that's not Matt. Oh, it did, it went well. Here we go.
Oh, so the new banner's in the works, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Sorry.
But I came in prepared.
Yeah.
Got my home colours on, so
Beautiful.
yeah.
So Matt is the TechOn rep here. TechOn are how would you describe them? A development shop? You've got developers?
Offshore development shop. So those of you, I've used TechOn, I can vouch for them. Basically, if you are looking to get an app up and running and sorted, TechOn basically has some great developers out in Nepal, and definitely worth checking them out. Scan the QR code, get in contact with Matt here, and they can help you out.
Using for React, all sorts of things. You've got an AI developer now in here.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Always have. It's free at the moment.
He's free at the moment too.
Free at the moment.
Okay. And all these wonderful companies, we'll just whiz through them, I think.
Yes.
So run late. Space Cubed, you're in a place owned by Space Cube called Rift. There's a few others down the road, Flux and Fern.
Startup News, subscribe to it every Friday. Great piece of nugget of information into your inbox. +8, they're about to open up the new accelerator, I think, in the next couple of months. So if you've got an idea, you want to take it through the accelerator, get some potential funding. I think it's like up to 80 grand. Then check out +8. Startup WA, massive advocates to the government for the startup ecosystem. And last but not least, Tech Board for claiming your profile and getting information out.
Tech Board, put up your announcements and we'll go out to their investor-focused audience. But also become a member of Startup WA, and you'll get their newsletters and hear about all of the stuff that's happening in the startup space. Cool. Get in touch with us. Who wants to do a talk one day on something cool in the startup ecosystem that everyone needs to know? Maybe you worked on something this week and you're like, that's awesome, I'm going to tell people about that. Always looking for cool presenters to come up here and share their wisdom. So get in touch with us, contact at morningstartup.com. Not guaranteed, we're going to vet it a little bit and make sure it's on point for startups. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
I've got some other green tech people who I've talked to about doing it here.
Okay, awesome. Bring it on.
Cool.
Who wants to hear about green tech? Are there any topics that you guys like? I want to hear about that.
Well, they do. It's a good segue. I know one topic that everyone always gets a sellout crowd is money. Who wants money for their company? So, nice segue. The next one here, we have Purpose. We have Kylie, Derek. I'm not sure who's going to turn up, but obviously Purpose Ventures, you've got Kylie, Derek, Lachlan and Kirsty. I'm not sure who's presenting, but they are one of the Purpose Ventures are one of the VCs. They're actually the only actual VC that's here in WA, because the other ones I think are different kind of legal structures. but they will be here in a couple of weeks' time to kind of basically share their insights, to share a little bit of information about how to be venture ready. And I definitely, having been through the process myself with purpose, I understand how there's definitely a lot of work in getting yourself ready for that first intake of capital. So
It's one of the few, 5 investments that they've done?
we were number second. We were literally just this and this with Paperly. It was like hours between getting the paperwork in and signed, and there was one thing that stopped us. We were the second investment for them, but yes.
Sure. Well, that should be a good session. So come along and learn all about the process and getting venture capital ready if you're in that space. Not everyone needs venture capital, but yeah, it's good to know about. But that's it from us. I'm going to sit down and shut up and let the actual talk happen, which is why you're all here today. We've got an amazing guy, Rahul Seth, who I met and found a Sundowner a few months ago. He runs one of Australia's largest not-for-profit volunteer organisations called Activate Mental Health. I believe you've got 20 volunteers working for you. You're running about 300 events per year, and 6,000 membership of people trying to solve mental health in Australia, which is really, really awesome. And he's going to tell you all about his startup, how he's done it. And I'm just going to hand over to him, and he's going to tell you all about it.
Before we do that, I did get a quick tap on the shoulder as to, it's this mic you want to use, is that correct? Perfect, sorry. You're just not as good as this one. There we go, round of applause.
Rahul Seth. Shut this down. Crank yours on. Is that mic working?
Testing 1, 2. Yep.
Good to roll.
So, if loneliness is the biggest health epidemic that the world currently faces, there's one simple solution. That solution is community. My name is Rahul, and I'm the founder of Perth's biggest mental wellbeing support group, Activate Mental Health. This is a presentation that I gave last year at the 2023 Volunteering WA State Conference. I just wanted to talk about the lessons that I learned in building a community from scratch. Today, I'll talk a little bit about myself, the history of how Activate Mental Health came to be, the lessons learned in developing a volunteer community, the lessons learned about managing volunteers, some general lessons about leadership, and also touch base on the future of mental health support. So, just a little bit about me. Who is Rahul Seth? Well, I'm a guy who's grown up majority of my life in Perth, but Perth wasn't where I'm originally from. This is a picture of my hometown when I visited 10 years ago. This is St. Gallen in Switzerland. St. Gallen is very famous for its World Heritage listed church and also its textiles. I'm a chartered accountant by qualification, and I'm also an award-winning NDIS mental health support worker. I'm a guy who likes to hang out with my friends, and I love my motorsport, be it Australian supercars or Formula One. I have a very strange addiction to timing. I blame that to my Swiss roots, and these are all Swatch watches in my collection. I own 25 of them. Music is a huge part of my life, and I particularly like the British band Muse. And you can often find me reading non-fiction books. Volunteering has been a huge part of my life. I'm a big kid at heart, who's always up for an interesting conversation. I dream of meeting influential people, and one day I hope to transform the world. In all seriousness, there have been some cold and frosty moments in my life, but through a lot of hard work, sweat and persistence, I live a much brighter life. So how did Activate Mental Health come to be? Well, it all started in my high school days when I studied at Trinity College. I ended up being the top accounting student in my year, and I thought that this would be the natural career path for me because I found it so easy academically. So I ended up enrolling at UWA, and I studied a Bachelor of Commerce. When I was studying, I focused so much on getting really good quality grades that I forgot to develop social outlets. When I wasn't studying hard at UWA, I was the best checkout chick you could find at Coles South Perth. And I won an award for that too as well. I applied for a lot of graduate accounting firms and went through all their programs, and despite the fact that I had a 75 mark average and a great record of working at Coles, I did not land one single offer for an accounting firm for a graduate position. I couldn't understand why that was the case, and I ended up calling RSM Berg Cameron and said, "Can you give me some feedback on my interview?" They responded by giving me a contract to work as an auditor. It was the first day of my accounting career where I started to learn the importance of networks and communities. We were put up in the Mercure Hotel, and we had graduate accountants from Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra and Perth all together doing a 5-day orientation. On this first day, we had marketing expert Ron Gibson come in, and he talked about the importance of developing networks and communities. I didn't realise it at the time then, but this was probably the first time in my life that this was really shown as being important to me. I struggled in my career with my mental health and well-being because I wasn't gelling well with the work and I wasn't handling the stress all that well. It ended up being that I got a formal warning at work after I walked out of a team meeting, and this was the instigation for me to start going seeking help and getting a psychologist to help me out. I tried to stay in that job for a little while, but ultimately it was too much and I had to resign. A few months in, I got a little job at a little tax firm in Subiaco, but after 4 months, the firm didn't have enough work for me, so I ended up becoming redundant and I went on to an 8-month period of being unemployed. This was a very challenging part of my life because I was neither a graduate accountant because I had 18 months experience, nor was I an experienced accountant because it was broken up between my auditing and tax careers. In this period, I was trying to do everything to find work. I was doing things like writing a blog, I was on Twitter, I travelled to the Australian Grand Prix. At one moment I was working in the Liberal Party office, but I just couldn't do anything to land a job. When I did secure work, I did a few silly behaviours and alerted a few people, and I was asked to be taken into the hospital. It ended up being that nurses and police rocked up to my house, even though I wasn't a danger to anyone. And they took me to the locked ward at Bentley Hospital, and there I was given the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. I thought this diagnosis was as a result of all the changing things I was doing and all the pressures that I had in my environment. I've come to learn now it is a physical condition that I have and something I have to manage each and every day. I struggled with this diagnosis for 6 months, and I was reflecting on the number 3. Being an accountant, numbers are very significant, and I've always had a thing for the number 3. I was really in a dark place because I thought this lofty, fantastic career that I was going to have wasn't coming to fruition. I was washed up, and it was just a really struggle period. Around Christmas time of that year, I had a very serious lapse in my health and well-being. Ended up having to go to hospital for 4 weeks. This was the start of my recovery journey. I had an OT come to me with a list of hobbies and said, "You need to pick something to improve your health and well-being." So I ended up picking up tennis because it's something that I enjoyed in my high school days. And I played tennis at Robertson Park Tennis Club for 6 years. I still was determined to become a chartered accountant. And for those who don't know about the qualification, it's like doing full-time study on top of full-time work. And in 2012, I became a CA. This led me to start exploring other social opportunities. So I ended up starting to volunteer, and I volunteered with a little organisation called Befriend Inc., who runs fun social events to reduce people's social isolation. Very similar to what Activate Mental Health does, but they just promote it a little bit differently. It was part of the Befriend team that led me to TEDx Perth, and I was their finance manager for 5 years between 2013 and 2018. The reason I stayed in accounting as long as I did was I was quite determined to go back to Switzerland to understand a little part of my identity that I was longing for, and I ended up doing that in 2014. When I came back from my trip, I didn't want to stay in accounting doing 6-minute intervals and having a job that I didn't particularly enjoy. I was contemplating a career in mental health at the time, but the reason why I didn't jump into a mental health career was I was a bit worried about spending my hard-earned savings and taking time off work to make the transition. I ended up taking a job in employment services, which are those services to help people on Centrelink to find work. When I was working this job, I was still struggling with my well-being, and I caught up with a friend, and I told him my passion for photography, but I thought it was just too expensive to get into. I ended up buying a little Olympus camera, and it opened me to a whole new world, and I started taking pictures of everything, whether they be sunrises, sunsets, nature, man-made buildings, people, or animals. So despite the fact that I was doing tennis, I was practicing photography, and I was volunteering, I was still struggling with my mental health. I was getting to the age of 28, turning 29, and all my friends were getting engaged, married, having kids, and progressing on with their lives. So I ended up engaging the services of a new psychologist at the time, and I told her about this idea I had. I pitched to her the Monopoly game. I wanted to create a mental health social club where people could come together and just focus on doing fun things. The idea was to do things like playing a game of Monopoly where you're busy for 3 to 4 hours, but you're around people who understand what you're going through. She said, go for it, and literally the next day, not even 18 hours, I jumped off on meetup.com and I created what I then called the Perth Active Depression Support Group. Yes, as someone who's pretty brand orientated, that was a shit brand. That picture there was our first logo, and that background's not even Perth, it's Margaret River.
That's where the wine comes from.
Pretty much. I'll need that wine tonight. Our first ever meetup was held at Greens & Co, and this was coffee, Uno, and brainstorming. And this was a grainy picture that I took of our first meeting. I knew I needed to capture this moment because I knew it reflected, but I was very nervous about taking pictures of the mental health support group. 2 weeks in, the Vic Park Collective ran a soup pitch night, and I ended up pitching there and telling them about this idea for the social club that I have, and I want to run events in the community. I was so nervous in my pitch that I said I would donate a quarter of the funds raised to another mental health charity. I ended up winning $890, and true to my word, I donated $225 of that to Bluebird Mental Health. And with the rest of the money, I purchased board games, and for the last 7.5 years, I've been running a monthly board games night at the Victoria Park Community Centre on the 4th Saturday of every month. Our group eventually got a better logo, and 2019, not only did we get an even better logo, we got a better name. Our group grows by 2 members each and every day since our existence. And the stats of the group at the moment are that we have over 5,900 members. We have 20 engaged volunteers who run more than 300 events annually. We do this on an annual budget of $4,000 per annum that is sponsored by 3 small businesses. There have been many personal benefits gained. I've been able to do events like this, to give speeches. I've been in social enterprise competitions. I've won lots of awards, like winning Volunteer of the Year WA last year, which was absolutely fantastic. But the crowning achievement that I've had is that I've built community. I've built a safe space where people can come together, have a bit of fun, and improve their mental well-being. The current goal of the group is to become a registered charity, so I've been running it as a sole trader for the last 7.5 years. But come July of this year, we will have charity status and then able to take grants, donations, and become a much more powerful entity. So what does mental health support look like at Activate Mental Health? Well, it could be a bunch of people coming together to play board games, or to discuss TED Talks, have a walk on the beach, have a barbecue in the South Perth foreshore, or play mini golf. Our model is simple. We have one volunteer who puts their hand up to run activities, and people simply come to join them. Some of them maybe with support workers. And all of these volunteers are supported by one central single hub. So that's the story behind Activate Mental Health. So what are some of the general lessons I've learned as a result of building this community up from the ground up? Well, there's 7 lessons I want to first talk to you about building a community from scratch. And the first, and I believe the most important lesson that I have, is to make sure that you always maintain your health and well-being first. If you don't have your health and well-being, you don't have anything in life. So you've always got to prioritise your health and well-being when you are running up a startup or managing an organisation. The second thing I want to talk about is the power of word of mouth. It is very underrated about how powerful it is as a marketing force. Especially in the startup scene, you're likely to get more engagement through word of mouth than you are through digital marketing. It's really important to come out to events like this and pitch your ideas like they did at the shout-outs at the start of this presentation. The third thing I've learned quite importantly is about the importance of presenting a consistent brand. And you can really see in this presentation, I've used the same fonts, colours and logos of the Activate Mental Health brand to clearly show what we're all about. If you think of some of the most powerful brands like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Apple, they all present themselves in a very clear and consistent way, so when you see their work, you instantly know who you're referring to. The fourth thing is, it's really important, it's about collaborating with other ideas. And you can see at the start of this Morning Startup presentation, all the companies that have collaborated with Morning Startup to make sure that this event and this community is an absolute success. With Activate Mental Health, we collaborate with Connect Groups WA, Act for Long Commit, and Volunteering WA. We also have 3 financial sponsors, Blooming Minds, ABS Institute of Management, and Virtuosis, who all come together to support and make sure Activate is a success for our absolute members. So it's quite key that you collaborate with other people in the organisation. The fifth thing I've learned quite importantly, and this is really specifically important for non-profits especially, is about documenting your impact. The first thing people want to know when they want to learn about your cause is who are you helping and what impact are you making. It's really important to capture testimonials, survey data and other feedback to demonstrate what difference you're making in the community. Even as a startup, you have to demonstrate the impact of buying your goods and services for your customers. Activate Mental Health does an annual survey, and we've just recently completed it. And if you follow me on LinkedIn next week, you'll see the results of our annual survey. The sixth thing I want to talk about is the difficulty of fundraising. I think everyone understands that fundraising is a very difficult concept to get people to hand over their money. But what I've come to learn is it's actually more difficult than you initially perceive it to be. Whether it's running an event, doing a crowdfunding campaign, asking for donations, money is very hard to get, and it's a lot harder than you usually persist. The last thing I want to mention about generally building a community is the importance of finding a mentor. If Roger Federer needs a coach to teach him how to play tennis, then anyone needs a coach to help him run a business or a startup. There are a few people in this room here that specialise in coaching startups, so we would really recommend connecting with them. Even as a paid basis, there's a lot to learn and it's a lot to gain by connecting with them. So they're the 7 lessons I've generally learned about building a community. Well, what about managing volunteers? Now, even though I'm talking about volunteers here, the same thing applies to if you're hiring a paid employee. The first thing I've learned in general is that it takes 2 levels of effort for people to say they want to volunteer for your cause. The initial hand up to say that they want to volunteer takes a lot of courage for a person to do. But what I've found through practice is it takes an even bigger hand to actually follow through in their volunteering and make sure they make a difference to your cause. When it comes to volunteering, it's usually quite lowly ranked in people's priority list. You know, you have to first look after your financial health, you need to make sure you look after your general health, you might have family, you might have other personal commitments. So getting volunteers to actually follow through and say that they want to volunteer is a huge challenge in itself. The second thing I want to talk about here in this lesson is that what you find is that the founder always has the most energy to a cause. Activate is literally on my mind 24/7, 365. Whenever you get other people to help, they do want to give effort and they do want to contribute to the cause. But if something changes, it'll always fall back to the founder. So even with a startup, even if you employ someone else, if something happens, it will come back to you and you always have to pitch in. So you've always got to be mindful when you get other people involved that they don't have the same effort and mindset as what you do. The third thing that's really important is the importance of providing training and development, whether that's one-on-one mentoring or giving some programs to go and train and develop them. People need to be trained in order to be able to do their cause. The fourth thing, and this is really important for non-profits, is to celebrate the little wins. People volunteer because they want to feel like they're making a difference and having a little bit of fun. It's always important that when people are contributing to the causes, whether it be a startup or whether it be a non-profit organisation, that you compliment them and you always thank them for all the difference that they're making to the cause that you are running. And the last thing I've learned about managing volunteers is to make sure that the roles are sustainable. People have busy lives and they don't want to be overwhelmed by their volunteering. In my days of TEDx Perth, I would see a lot of volunteers get burnt out because it was like doing a part-time unpaid job on top of a full-time job. It was a very full-on sense of volunteering, and it's the same thing we have to manage at Activate Mental Health because some tasks could go beyond time limits. So making the roles manageable is of critical importance. Now, these are 3 lessons I learned about leadership in general, and this is what I pitched at a speech I did to Leadership WA. The first thing, and I am going to repeat this lesson again, is the importance of health and well-being. As I mentioned earlier, you don't have health and well-being, you don't have anything. So it is a really key thing, and that's why I've included this lesson twice in this presentation. The second thing is about the importance of networking. It is really important to go out there, meet new people, come to different groups, and see who can help you with your cause. You never know who's in the room that can make a difference to what you're doing. And that's primarily the reason why I'm here today, in all honesty. And the last lesson I learned about leadership is grit. And I've adapted this from the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. In this book, Angela's done a lot of studies and she's found that the most successful people are the ones who just continue to persist. So the more gritty you are and the more you learn and adapt, the more likely you are to have success. And I want to touch on 4 things here about what I see as the future of mental health support. One of the things I reckon that the future will be is a need for more peer support groups. There's a lot of mental health charities who go out there and raise awareness and say, go get help and you'll be fine and you can go out there. But what's lacking is the help. And that help comes through peer support groups that are available on nights, weekends, especially when other traditional supports aren't working at those vulnerable times. There are a lot of great peer support initiatives, such as Activate Mental Health, there's Befriend, there's the Mr. Perfect barbecues, there's Way for Wellness. So it is starting to become a bit of a trend that a lot of people are going to get dismayed that the government's not doing enough for mental health, and people are going to take their issue into their own hands and create these groups. The problem that peer support groups face is that they find it very hard to fundraise. It doesn't sound like a very attractive cause to say that you're only helping about 20 to 30 odd people through a peer support group, despite the fact it is a very valued service and one that really does truly make a difference in people's lives. People are more likely to throw funds to something like an Are You OK Day because they are, to use a better word, a sexy way of promoting mental health and well-being. The reason why peer support groups are important is that they create a sense of belonging. And normally what I like to show here is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So to quickly sum up, at the base is physiological needs, then safety, a sense of belonging, and then the higher order needs are self-esteem and self-actualization. When someone's in mental health distress, especially if they need to go to hospital, meeting their physiological and safety needs is what is of the critical importance. But once those needs are met and they're sent back out to the community, the next thing that they're struggling for is a sense of belonging and a place where they feel heard and understood. While there's a lot of resources that are thrown at those bottom order needs, there's not a lot of work done in the belonging space. So it's quite critical that we do more support for people to feel connected and valued, and that's how they'll achieve the higher order needs in Maslow's hierarchy. And the thing that peer support groups struggle with, the biggest expense is venue hire. If you were to take a $30 an hour room for 1.5 hours times 26 fortnights, you're looking at $1,170 to run a peer support group. That's a lot of money, especially when you consider that these people have chronic health conditions and don't necessarily able to finance that. So if there's ever a chance that you can help a peer support group out with a venue space, it is quite important for them. Now I'm going to finish up here with a call to action about how you can support Activate Mental Health. And the first thing I would like to mention is sponsorship. We run on a budget of $4,000 a year. So like if you were to give somewhere between $500 to $1,000, you're looking at 12.5% to 25% of our operating budget. That's a lot of effort for such a small amount. There's not many charities that you can give that can help that. I've actually left a donation jar at the back corner over there, so if anyone likes to leave a little bit of change or a note or something, that would be much appreciated, and thanks for showing that up. The second thing is in-kind support. There's a lot of talented people in this room, so if you have a skill that you feel like could enhance Activate Mental Health, we would always love your assistance with that. The third thing we'd like to help with is volunteering, and we're in the final touches of doing a proper recruitment drive in April. We'll be advertising that in March, but if you go onto the Activate Mental Health general website, activatemh.com.au, there is a volunteer application form. So if you ever felt like putting your hand up to run a social event, would love your assistance. And the last thing I'll mention again is venue hire. Like I said, it is a very big cost. So if you know any venues that you can run events for free that are private and secure, it can very much go a long way for us. So the key lesson I've learned in all of this journey, and it's the one I started off my presentation with, is the importance of community for mental well-being. Often when it comes to mental health, we promote the medical model, whether that's medication or psychology. But what most people are looking for is a sense of belonging and a sense of connection. The way I try to describe it is like that we are always tribes. Back in our Stone Age days, we would have to work together in order to necessarily survive. Thanks to the advancements in technology and transportation, the world is now one global tribe. We all work together to collectively improve the well-being of our lives. And that's often forgotten when it comes to mental health service provision, that we need to band together and support each other through peer support groups. The way I like to sum this up is to use the words of Brené Brown from her book, Daring Greatly. Connection is why we're here. We're hardwired to connect with others. It's what gives us meaning and purpose, and without it, there is suffering. So that's the presentation I have for you today. Thank you so much for coming first thing in the morning to come listen to little old me talk about mental health and well-being, and I hope you got something out of it.
Keep that, because we're going to open the floor to any questions. All right.
Morning, Rahul.
Morning.
Morning, man. Hey, thanks for that. It was great. I've got a question around, you said fundraising is difficult typically, and it has been difficult for you and your side of the journey.
Yeah.
How have you done it? How have you raised funds in the past? Any kind of, I'm not looking for a golden ticket,
Yeah.
but just experiences or anything you got crafting in.
Yeah. I've been very lucky that all the 3 sponsors that I found have come through general networking. So 3 or 4 years ago, I put one single post on LinkedIn, and they're seeing all the work that I do, so that they decided to sponsor us from that. And then the other 2 sponsors I've got through general, coming to events like this and helping out. But it's been the consistent marketing on LinkedIn and showing the presentations and stuff. And one of the things that Activate, even though I said peer support groups struggle, Activate is a kind of a more catchier peer support group because it sounds like such an obvious idea. It's a positive sounding brand. But yeah, generally the best way to raise funds and to get more exposure is to come to different communities, is to keep exposing to yourself and keep that advertising. But like I said, it takes a lot of effort. Like I would say that some of these sponsors just easily gave and they don't expect anything in return, but there's been a lot of groundwork to go achieve that and stuff. There's a story about someone who draws a doodle on a napkin and he charges like $100 or something like that, and you're going, why are you doing that for a 5-minute doodle? He goes, because there's been years of work to be able to do that. So yeah, it's about putting that effort in and then just finding yourself more exposure.
just to follow up on that then, is, sorry to hog the mic, but just to follow up on that, is when you did do the marketing and the posts and stuff on LinkedIn, was that the intention, to fundraise?
No, I just like being creative technology-wise. Like I use social media quite a lot and stuff, and I don't necessarily do it for an agenda or anything like that. I just like it as a way of creativity. Like one of the things about me, like creativity is one of my personal values, and I like testing myself, whether it's a presentation or running an event or doing the graphic design of all the slides and stuff. It's just something I just genuinely like to enjoy and do. So yeah, it's...
Sure.
Yeah. Matt.
Hi, thanks, Rahul. Great presentation. It's obviously evolved since you did it for us. I just wanted, from your point of view, getting up and speaking and the power of speaking when you're trying to network and build a brand like this, what would you say to other people that are like, to encourage them to try to do similar to what you're doing, building a brand, building a, maybe it's a startup or a not-for-profit, something like that. What's the power of telling your story, putting yourself out there, that kind of thing? Any words of encouragement as well?
Yeah. Well, something I've learnt about marketing is the best form of marketing is people relate to people. So you've all got to do the power of storytelling and sharing ideas. When I was at the Volunteering WA State Conference, the opening keynote was from Shil Shivani, who was the MC. And the whole keynote was about the power of storytelling, especially for non-for-profits. It's really key. So the more you can be your authentic self and the more you can share of yourself, the more people are going to relate to you and wanting to connect. So being a bit open and vulnerable and talking about some of the difficulties you've been through or the challenges you go through, the more authentic you are, the more it helps. The other thing as well, last couple of months I've taken up Toastmasters, and it's a really clever way to improve your public speaking skills. I was quite impressed as I was talking about how much I slowed myself down and tried to breathe a little bit more. And I know I've got some things I do well in public speaking and some things I can do a lot better. But like when you join clubs like that and get some experience, it really does help to do your well-being. So I do recommend like Toastmasters as a really good way to improve your public speaking skills.
Smack there. Well, I head that way. What are you doing in the next 6 weeks? Go.
My calendar's literally booked for weeks on end. Like I booked my calendar up to 6 weeks in advance, so I'll have to consult with it.
Thanks, Rahul. I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you for being so honest and open. I feel like I have quite a few cross over points with you. I have worked in social care and aging living lab where we actually did research and social prevention and prevention of isolation and loneliness, which is actually found to be more harmful. The sense of being lonely is more harmful than smoking cigarettes, not exercising and eating junk food altogether.
Yeah.
And it's actually one of the number one reasons for people premature death is actually the fear of being lonely. If anyone has less than 5 people in their social support network, they're at risk of dying. So there is quite a serious issue that we're dealing with, and I would love to support you. A couple of things from me that could be of interest and to anyone else as well is around this philosophy community nights. We call it Alphabet Philosophy. We just found a venue, our next one is actually on Friday in South Fremantle. And we just discuss different philosophers, we listen to a podcast, and then everybody just says what that means to them. And this is a really good nurturing point of getting people to talk about meaningful stuff, not just small talk. The other thing that might be of interest is that I also run game sessions, specifically around the game of Go, which is similar to chess, but better. So I run this with communities and libraries, local cities, libraries, and that's been really powerful in terms of bringing people together. And libraries are often a center point, and they're quite willing to support that type of initiative, giving venues and things like that. And the last thing I want to say, thank you for being so open and for sharing your stories. I don't know how to raise funds, I'm sorry, I'm not very good.
It's my biggest bugbear. I hate asking people for money. It's something I'm very, very reluctant to do. In terms of like the philosophy club, you can connect anyone over any subject matter, and it's really cool to run groups like that. Like one of Activate's really cool initiatives is we've copied this concept from these girls who started up in the US called Silent Book Club. So instead of being a book club where everyone comes together and reads the same book, you bring your own book of the choice, you come together, you discuss it for half an hour, and then you spend the next hour sitting in a public place reading the book silently, and then you have conversations again. So you can connect people through the power of philosophy, reading, mental health. It's all possible and stuff. I have heard about the Game Go. Did you do the TEDx Perth speech? I was in the audience for that. So yeah. So I do remember that per se. And yeah, like mentioning about the dilemma of loneliness. The research is 15 cigarettes per day, the damage it causes. And there is a lot of empirical evidence that people are saying it's the biggest epidemic the world currently faces, which was my opening key point. So, we live in the most connected society the world's ever been, yet we're also the most isolated at the same time. So that's a bit scary. So yeah.
All right, one more question. Thank you for your presentation, Rahul. The question is, you talked about the two barriers to volunteering, obviously putting a hand up and then getting involved. Can you share a little bit about, I would imagine also first experiences once they're volunteering. Is there any sort of process or thoughts you have on that first experience for a volunteer? Because I would imagine if it's bad, it could be the end of the volunteering experience or involvement. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to show people the benefits of it, especially if they've put their hand up to volunteer and not really experienced an event in the first place. So one of the things that Activate struggled is that we haven't actually had a proper volunteer recruitment and retention program for the last few months. What we've been working on is a program where and the program is going to be that the initial experience is they're going to do a 2-hour workshop, but they get to experience 3 Activate events, whether it be a walk, a creativity session and a game of Uno. So they get an idea to feel what it is. And so it's really important to simulate that experience and get it from the get-go. And despite the fact it seems very obvious for me why you do this, all the fun and connection, for someone coming brand new, they don't necessarily see that. And if they don't feel that straight away, that's the problem that it is there. So that's something that Activate's working on. And that's where the point of training and development comes in. You really need to nurture and help and support. And we haven't historically done that very well, but we've been working there for months on it, and we do feel like we're implementing a system that will get that experience right from the get-go. And that is one of the challenges of volunteering, is that sometimes people don't feel the benefit straight away. It takes a bit of consistency and a bit of learning to develop that and to develop the confidence, but providing the training and development opportunities and really showing people hand in hand what the benefit is, it's something that's quite vital for organisations.
I can say one more question, but I'm just going to hijack that last question. So have you ever had to deal with, when running a community like this, you often get people that may not be, have the right ethics or the mindset of being in that community. They might be a toxic member or something. How do you deal with that? Or have you had to deal with that?
That's a very challenging question. I don't believe I've had to deal with that straight away, but it is something that's very important, is to vet the right people and to make sure they make the difference. Obviously, as we're going to scale, we're going to have different people at different levels, so that idea will come up. Well, we've had difficult members in the past who've expected things from us, like one member was asking for a trip to come to an event because he couldn't make it for transport. But then he aggressively wrote, "Oh, so I guess everyone's coming from the south now," or something, like he was in the north and stuff like that. And I responded, said, "Look, it's not anything personal and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it was a very rude way presented." And then he sent me a barrage of hateful messages, and you're like, I'm doing charity work here. I'm trying to help people and stuff, and you're criticising for it. But like everyone gets difficult and bad ratings. Like Activate has a star rating average of 4.7 after 2,600 event ratings, but you occasionally get the occasional 1 star, and you think, because we're so wide to focus on the negative, you're like, why is that one person giving a 1 star when you've got 2,600 ratings saying the other way, saying this is a 5-star experience? So just trying to meet people's expectations and try to get them on the level. It usually takes a long time to develop if the person's right for you. They might present very well and stuff. You know, it's like that catchy boyfriend and girlfriend, speaking of Valentine's Day, but after a few months you realise they're not the perfect match. It's the same thing with finding volunteers and other members of your cause. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for that. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
I guess it's no different to staff. Really, when you think about it, finding volunteers, like you said, it's no different to try and find the staff. You know, you interview them and then all of a sudden that's where you have a probation, you know. So,
yeah, I guess the difference is you're paying staff and does that change things? I don't know.
It's the only difference is the Maslow's need, like the need of earning money.
Yeah, versus
in the same transaction.
it's the same level.
Yeah.
I think one of the points I picked up was then people who volunteer, that, like you say, they're not doing it for the payment, but they're doing it for a different type of reward, you know, and it's personal to each person. It's no different to you and I.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Our reward is getting up here, looking at you beautiful people.
I work from a home office every single day, so this is my, mental health reinvigoration, just running this community. So thank you very much. I've definitely got a lot out of that. I think we've got work to do. All right. What else do we have to say? We've got Purpose Ventures in 2 weeks' time. Make sure you come along to that. Make sure you come along to Founder Sundowner at the start of the month and enjoy the food at the back and get to know each other.
Brilliant. I'm going to quickly run around putting these chairs up. It's easier if you just put them next to where I am rather than trying to stack them, because often people don't stack them the right way. I'm not OCD, it's just if you don't stack them right, they all fall over.
Thanks so much for coming along, guys. See you in the next one. Cheers.